Hello guys, welcome back to another vlog on the channel. Today we're visiting Kendal Castle and the town nearby. We had a lovely couple days break near the Lake District and chose to visit Kendal, visiting the castle and the town. So this is Kendal Castle, sitting above the town of Kendal in Cumbria. Today it's peaceful. The weather might not be all that, but I think that actually captivates a more realistic experience of a castle, because it might be dog walkers and people taking in the views today, but hundreds of years ago, this castle, or the hill, was the centre of power for the area. So the grey skies and the drizzle of rain just make it a little bit more authentic than walking around in sunshine and rainbows. The castle dates back to around the late 1100s and early 1200s and became the home of the Barons of Kendal, essentially the people running things around here at the time. Obviously, what you can see here today is only a fraction of what once stood here. Imagine huge stone walls surrounding the hills, towers, halls, kitchens, servants, guards, and horses moving around. At its peak, this would have been a proper medieval stronghold rather than the quiet ruins that you see here today.
Yeah, possibly.
One thing that becomes obvious straight away is the view. You can pretty much see all over the valley from here. And that wasn't accidental either. Castles weren't built where they look pretty. They were built where they could control land and spot potential danger. The hill itself is actually a glacial hill known as a drumlin, created thousands of years ago by ice moving through the landscape. The most famous family connected with this place were the Parr
Camera
family.
phenomenal. It's so
If the
good.
name rings a bell, that's because
Yeah.
Catherine Parr came from this family. She became the sixth and
Ah.
final wife of Henry VIII.
Oh yeah.
For years, people believe Catherine Parr was born right here in Kendal Castle, but modern historians actually think that's unlikely. By the time she was born in 1512, the castle had already started falling into decline, and her family spent much of their time down in London around the royal court. So while she probably wasn't born here, Kendal still proudly claims that connection. And if you're wondering, Catherine Parr was the wife who survived Henry VIII. Like a lot of castles, Kendal's story wasn't one of endless success. The last of the Parr family lost their lands after political drama and accusations of treason. Eventually,
That's
castle
quite
passed
sad.
to the crown and slowly fell
This
apart.
bench has been
And I
graffitied
do
to
think
fuck.
it's so sad and disrespectful to
This
see
bench
people
has been like
graffitiing.
graffitied
I know
to
it's
fuck.
only a bench and it's not part of the castle, but seeing it that up there on such a
In the church
historical
bells.
site is sad. Over the years, people actually took stone from the castle ruins and reused it for buildings in the growing town below.
Which is good.
So bits of Kendal itself may literally contain pieces of the castle. When I think about it, I didn't actually vlog this, but we went into a Weatherspoons, so a pub nearby in the town, and there was actual features of stone that you could tell were from an original building, and I do now wonder if maybe that stone was part of the castle before. As Emily doing her little
Wow.
Borat impression.
Like a
Got to love it.
watchtower.
Even famous poet John Keats made his way up here.
Yeah, I think
Back
so.
in 1818, he visited the ruins during a walking tour through the Lake District. Kind of similar to what we were doing, I guess. No way. It's weird
What was
thinking
that?
people have been making the climb up here and
Chimney.
looking out at these views for hundreds of years. Pretty sure that definitely would have once been a chimney of some sort. Now, Kendal itself has a nickname. It's known as the Gateway to the Lakes because it's right on the edge of the Lake District. Historically, the town became wealthy through wool and textiles. Kendal green cloth was particularly famous and became known across England.
Yeah.
Today, most people probably know Kendal for something a little different.
Yeah.
Kendal
Yes,
Mint
like
Cake,
there.
and despite the name, it's not actually cake. Basically, a sugary energy bar, and it's been taken on expeditions by climbers and explorers for years.
Oh no way.
It's crazy to think that as
Hey,
old
the
as these
sun's trying to
ruins
go
are,
on.
you can still see parts where a beam would have been put in place, where another level was put in place, as Emily was just pointing out to us there. You've got features like the chimney that we saw. You can still see where, a window would have been, doors perhaps as well, archways you can still see. It's crazy. It's so, so cool. And I think anybody who comes up here to deface it in any way, even if it is just a bench that's not part of the original structure, it's still on site. It's just so disrespectful to see that people do that. Like Connor and Eva right there. Standing here now, it's strange to think that this place has seen medieval nobles, royal connections, political drama, poets, walkers, and tourists all pass through. Hundreds of years later, people are still climbing this hill for the exact same
Yeah,
reason,
it
to
is.
stop for a minute and take in the view.
Ah, like little bluebells and stuff.
Walking around here now, one thing
But
that
I don't
hits
know what
you
they
is
are
just
actually.
how
But yeah, like
much
little
is actually
purpley
missing. When you
bloom
first
flowers.
hear the word
Go on then.
castle, you imagine massive towers, huge gates, and all these giant stone walls stretching around you. But over hundreds of years, nature and people slowly changed this place. A lot of the stone disappeared over time and was reused elsewhere. Back then, people weren't thinking about preserving history. Stone was valuable. If they were perfectly good blocks sat up on a hill, they got taken and used. I am cheating a little bit here and climbing for a bit of a better look, if you like, but also being mindful to not disrespect this place. Thank you for that zoom, Emily. Fantastic. Look at me. Go on. Would like to point out it was a very windy day, so my hair is all over the gaff. There's
I feel
moments
like
like
that
that
could have
standing
been
up there
some
where
sort of beam or something.
you get to the point where you
Maybe.
really start to understand why they chose this
Yeah.
location. You can see across the town, the surrounding hills, and the valley around it. And if you're
This
defending
was
land
like sectioned
hundreds
off,
of years ago, this is exactly
possibly.
the kind of place you'd want to be standing.
Yeah.
Do always think ruins are weird in a good way
Yeah.
because you're looking at a place that once would have been full of life. There would have been
Yeah.
guards walking around, horses nearby, fires burning, people cooking, servants carrying things around, important meetings taking place. And entering rooms like this, you just have to wonder, what was this? Again, it was pretty clear that some people had been around here and misusing it. There was residents of like a bonfire that had happened in there, and there was graffiti as well, which again is really upsetting. But to think after all of those years, all the years that have passed by, it's just birds, the wind, and people wandering around with cameras like myself. It's kind of mad thinking about how many people have stood in almost exactly the same place. Not just tourists either, but going way back hundreds and hundreds of years ago. Nobles, soldiers, members of the Parr family even, workers, travellers, generations and generations of people looking out over the same landscape, people touching the walls, not defacing them like that. I do really love that little passage on the left there. I do wonder what that originally was. And while Kendal Castle itself eventually fell into a decline, the
That is
town below
incredible.
kept growing.
Beautiful, yeah.
Kendal became really important because of the trade and the wool industry, like we talked about before. People would have been travelling through here constantly, so while the castle slowly faded away, it's nice to see that the
Market
town
the
just underneath it
thing as well.
carried on evolving.
Graffiti.
Standing in this felt so surreal as well. Really felt like, I don't know, like in your head, you're just picturing what would have gone on here, like people
Working
cooking.
class there.
That was all I could think of was the workers here, like the servants and stuff. And, you
Yeah.
know, would this have been a servant's hatch? Nice to see, bit unusual as well, see like a pipe, bit of a pipe fitted in there. Wonder how long that would have been put, how long ago that would have been put in. That archway. It gives me Harry Potter vibes actually. There's I think it's a deleted scene where Snape's
Yeah.
standing in an archway and he's overlooking all the students coming in and he's obviously contemplating everything. Um but yeah, it's just has that vibe to it. But one thing medieval people definitely got right was location. I mean, look at this. Every time you sort of look out and you see just for miles and miles and miles
Wow.
away. It's so nice. Little features like the bars there. I mean, how long have the bars been there? So many questions. Like Emily getting out of the shot because she realised that I was recording. And luckily could fit through that narrow gap, just about. I do love how sort of narrow the end of these window type things
Yes,
are.
they were.
And
Yeah,
me and
that's
Emily were
where we
saying we
fell.
were told
Yeah.
as kids when we visited, a variety of castles on school trips and stuff, that they were like this so the archers could sort of shield themselves but poke the bows through the gap there. Emily was doing her best archer
My ground
impression
to
there
ground
as well.
stuff.
Forgetting about the castle for just a
It's
second
nice,
again,
yeah.
the views alone
Well, she like.
are definitely worth the
I just
walk up
find it's
here.
better content than me going, oh,
Although
look
I
at her
will say,
castle.
whoever built castles
Here's like
clearly wasn't thinking about people
80% of my
walking up
face
hills for
and then the
fun.
castle in the
But
background.
again,
Like,
maybe
no.
that was all the point.
If you're watching
Do feel I've
for a
climbed about
specific
3
thing,
walls
like
and
you
half a
wanna, I'd
mountain
rather
at
show
this
people the
point.
the POV,
Places like this are
not make
interesting
it
because
about
you
me.
only see part of the story in your imagination, just as all the rest.
Ah,
The walls don't tell you everything. Kind,
small chapel,
you have to
like the part
fill
of
in the
the
gaps yourself
realtor.
and you imagine what it looked like, who was here,
Yeah,
and what life would have been like all those years ago. Even like what clothes they would have worn as well, how different
wow.
everything is. That was an old well. It was interesting to see it's kind of still part of the feature on a gorgeous little Dalmatian. I do apologise to the bloke for recording him, but I had to get his little doggo on camera, or big doggo, I should say. So yeah, Kendal Castle, definitely worth the walk up. Loads of history, some really good views, and honestly, just one of those places where you can slow down for a bit and take everything in. Now, let's head back down
Yeah,
before I accidentally fall off something trying to get cinematic shots.
yeah,
So yeah, that
yeah.
does
I get what you're
conclude
saying. The
our
cave,
little trip around Kendal Castle.
possibly.
I've genuinely enjoyed this one because it's one of those places that isn't just about the ruins themselves, it's everything around it too. You've got the history, the stories, the links,
Same.
people like Catherine Parr,
Sorry,
the
just gonna
views
move
over
my bed.
Kendal, and then just that weird feeling of standing somewhere that people have been standing around for hundreds and hundreds of years. Places like this always make you think a
See,
little bit because you walk around today with
see,
your phone in your hand, filming videos, taking
look at how
photos,
much I
and
have to
then you
duck.
stop and think
Hardly.
people were standing on this same hill around 800 years ago, looking over the same landscape, but living completely different lives. It's kind of mad when you think about it, and I think that's what I like about exploring places like this. It's not always about massive famous landmarks or huge tourist attractions.
Hmm?
Sometimes it's just finding places with a story behind them, taking that bit of time to actually appreciate them.
Could have done.
If you've enjoyed coming along with me today, make sure you drop a like on the video because it genuinely helps me out loads. Subscribe as well if you're new around here because we've got plenty more coming. Home videos, adventures, road trips, football content, and hopefully a lot more places like this. And one thing I do want to know in the comments, where should we go next? What castles should we add to our list? Could be famous places, hidden places, local places, ruins on hills in the middle of nowhere. Genuinely, throw your suggestions at me because I'd love to turn this into a bit of a series. Maybe we end up at some huge medieval castle, maybe somewhere supposedly haunted, maybe somewhere with a crazy bit of history attached to it. Whatever you've got, let me know below. Thank you all very much for watching. Thank you for coming along with me, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Take care, everyone.